The Vikings just made a move that the media hasn't fully grasped yet. The team signed a new defensive player, but the question isn't who he is, it's why the Vikings chose him right now, right after their 27-19 loss to the Ravens in Week 10. The secondary is bleeding with Jeff Okudah on IR due to concussions. Isaiah Rodgers has been tested week after week, and Byron Murphy Jr. is no longer the wall he was in 2024. While the media keeps talking about cornerback Asante Samuel Jr. heading to Pittsburgh, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah brought in someone who might be the exact piece Brian Flores really needs to fix this defensive system that's giving up too many big plays. What nobody is saying about this signing, I'm about to reveal right now, so stay tuned because we're getting straight to the point. The signing is Sheamar Bartholomew, a 25-year-old cornerback standing 6 feet 1 inch and weighing 200 pounds. And here's the first fact that explains everything. When the Jets cut him at the end of the 2024 preseason, 4 NFL teams placed waiver claims for him. The Panthers won the claim and kept him on their active roster for 5 regular season games in 2024, where he played 17 defensive snaps against real NFL offenses and 34 snaps on special teams. This means Bartholomew isn't a theoretical prospect. He has recent experience playing against actual NFL offensive schemes, learned Ejiro Evero's playbook with the Panthers, one of the most respected defensive coordinators in the league, and faced real game situations where every snap matters for film study and development. And here's the perfect timing for this signing. Jeff Okudah was placed on injured reserve on Saturday before the game against the Ravens. His second concussion in 9 weeks of the 2025 season. Okudah suffered the first concussion in Week 1 against the Bears, returned, and in Week 8 against the Chargers he suffered the second. He will be out for at least 4 games, and can only return in Week 14 against the Washington Commanders. Meanwhile, the Vikings secondary has Byron Murphy Jr., who isn't playing at his 2024 level, Isaiah Rodgers being challenged every week, and Fabian Moreau at 33 years old, who was promoted from the practice squad in Week 10 but isn't a long-term solution. The Vikings needed a young cornerback with physical upside and recent NFL experience. Bartholomew at 25 fits exactly that profile. But let's talk about what really matters. What did Bartholomew do on the field that caught the attention of 4 NFL teams? At Georgia Southern in 2023, his final college season, he recorded 29 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1 interception, and 14 passes defended, earning him second-team All-Sun Belt recognition. Throughout his college career at Georgia Southern, he totaled 34 passes defended and 10 interceptions, ranking 9th nationally in passes deflected during the 2023 season. These numbers show a consistent pattern. Bartholomew is a natural ball hawk, someone with the instinct to track the ball in the air and make plays. And that's critical because the Vikings secondary in 2025 is on pace to finish the season with a much lower interception total than in 2024. The defense that in 2024 had a turnover differential of +12 now sits at -7 through the first 10 weeks. The Jets' scouting report before signing him highlighted specific traits. Bartholomew excels in bump and run coverage, where he can run stride for stride with his matchup on deep routes, using his long strides and vertical athleticism to stay glued to the receiver. He has solid hand placement technique at the line of scrimmage, can reroute receivers in their early stems, and possesses the closing speed needed to recover when receivers make sharp breaks. And here's the detail that sets him apart from other available cornerbacks. With his 6'1", 200-pound frame, combined with strong play recognition, range, and physicality in run defense, scouts projected that he could also be a capable safety if needed. This positional versatility is exactly what Brian Flores values in his defensive scheme. Flores frequently uses quarters coverage and its variations with different reads for defensive backs, where a safety can become a cornerback, and a cornerback can act as a safety depending on offensive formations. In 2024, Flores used zone defense on 68.3% of the Vikings' snaps, the 4th highest rate in the NFL. To execute this complex scheme, you need players with high football IQ who can process reads quickly and adjust their responsibilities based on motion, shifts, and route combinations. Bartholomew demonstrated that IQ at Georgia Southern, where he often played as the only NFL-caliber cornerback on the roster, having to make all the coverage adjustments without safety help over the top. Now compare that profile with what's happening in the Vikings secondary right now in 2025. In Week 7 against the Eagles, Jalen Hurts completed 82.6% of his passes, going 19 of 23 for 326 yards and 3 touchdowns with a perfect passer rating of 158.3. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith shredded the coverage because the Vikings simply couldn't handle two legitimate WR1s playing at the same time. Isaiah Rodgers was targeted repeatedly and failed to make the necessary plays to close the windows Hurts exploited. In Week 10 against the Ravens, the defense couldn't force the critical turnovers needed to shift the game's momentum. Lamar Jackson executed the game plan perfectly. Derrick Henry dominated on the ground, and the Vikings secondary failed to create any impactful defensive play that could push the Ravens out of their offensive script. And there's more. The Vikings face the Bears in Week 11, and Caleb Williams is starting to find rhythm with DJ Moore, who has 53 receptions for 599 yards, Keenan Allen adding 34 catches for 377 yards, and Rome Odunze beginning to emerge. You can't cover 3 legitimate receivers with just Murphy and Rodgers if either one suffers any kind of injury during the game. Having Bartholomew on the practice squad now gives the Vikings the insurance policy they didn't have. He still has a few practice days to absorb Flores' game plan, study film on Williams and the Bears' offense, and be ready in case the Vikings need to elevate him to the game day roster. And look at the precedent already set. Fabian Moreau was signed from the practice squad to the active roster after Okudah went to IR in Week 9 and immediately played 24 quality snaps against the Lions. Moreau had 21 snaps in pass coverage and 3 in run defense. Didn't allow any receptions when targeted and earned solid grades from PFF. Flores trusts players who can absorb the playbook quickly and execute assignments without hesitation. If Bartholomew shows during this week's practices that he understands Flores' concepts and can execute the reads in quarters coverage, it wouldn't be surprising to see him elevated for Sunday's game against Chicago, following the exact same path Moreau took just 2 weeks ago. But the issue goes beyond simply replacing Okudah. Byron Murphy Jr., who was the anchor of the secondary in 2024, is taking a step back in 2025. Murphy was a force last season when the Vikings led the NFL in defensive efficiency between weeks 4 and 14. Now, the defense ranks 31st in the league in turnover differential at -7. The secondary as a whole lost Cameron Bynum, Stephon Gilmore, and Shaq Griffin, who all departed after 2024, and the replacements haven't produced at the same level. Bartholomew, at 25 years old with 34 passes defended and 10 interceptions in his college career, brings exactly the kind of ball production that's been missing. He isn't just depth. He's someone with the potential to elevate the entire secondary's level of play if he can earn meaningful snaps. The Vikings are 4-5 through 10 weeks, sitting in 4th place in the NFC North. The Detroit Lions lead with 6 wins, the Chicago Bears also have 6, and the Packers sit at 5, while Minnesota, with 4 wins, occupies the bottom of the division. The 27-19 loss to the Ravens was a statistical punch to the Vikings' playoff hopes, with their postseason probability dropping to just 20.9% and their chances of winning the NFC North falling to a mere 5.5%. The remaining schedule includes the Bears at home in Week 11, a trip to Green Bay in Week 12, Seattle in Week 13, the Commanders at home in Week 14, Dallas in Week 15, the Giants in Week 16, the Lions at home on Christmas Day in Week 17, and the Packers in Week 18. 4 of the 7 remaining games are against NFC North rivals. A win against the Bears in Week 11 would raise Minnesota's playoff chances to 13%, while a loss would drop them to just 3%. However, the signing of Bartholomew isn't just about depth, it's about survival at a moment when every snap matters. With Okudah out for at least 3 more weeks, Moreau at 33 unable to handle high snap counts, and the secondary allowing Jalen Hurts to complete 82.6% of his passes with a perfect passer rating of 158.3, Bartholomew at 25 represents the kind of low-risk, high-reward move desperate teams make when they're 3 games behind the division lead. He brings physical upside, 34 passes defended in college, positional versatility, and recent NFL experience. If he earns a roster elevation and impresses the way Moreau did, the Vikings will have someone who can contribute not only now, but also in 2026, when decisions about Murphy and Rodgers will need to be made. The next 7 days of practice will tell everything. If Bartholomew proves he belongs at the NFL level, don't be surprised to see him at US Bank Stadium on Sunday, making plays that show exactly why 4 teams fought to get him. Thank you for watching and see you soon.